Every afternoon at exactly 4:15 p.m., the old ice cream truck stopped outside St. Mercy Children's Hospital. The music it played was soft and cheerful. Children rushed toward the windows, smiling excitedly whenever they heard it. Doctors noticed it. Nurses noticed it. Parents noticed it. But nobody truly knew the driver. The truck always arrived at the same time, stayed for exactly 30 minutes, then disappeared quietly down the street. And strangely, the driver never accepted money from anyone. Children received free ice cream every single day. Rain, snow, heat, storms. He never missed a visit. Most people assumed he was simply a kind old man. But hidden inside the glove compartment of the truck was a photograph that explained everything. A little girl wearing a hospital gown smiled brightly while holding a melting strawberry ice cream cone. Her name was Ava. And 23 years earlier, she changed the old man's life forever. The driver's name was Henry Coleman. He was 72 years old with white hair, wrinkled hands, and gentle eyes filled with sadness. Before retirement, Henry had worked as a mechanic for nearly 40 years. Life was simple, quiet, ordinary, until the day his granddaughter Ava became sick. At first, doctors believed it was only fatigue. Then came the tests, the hospital visits, the diagnosis. Cancer. Henry still remembered the moment Ava asked him softly, "Am I going to die?" No grandfather is ever prepared for that question. During Ava's long hospital treatments, one thing always made her smile: ice cream. Even after painful procedures, even after exhausting chemotherapy sessions, a strawberry cone could still make her laugh. So every afternoon, Henry brought her ice cream to the hospital. Sometimes 2 cones. One for Ava. One for whichever child in the room looked the saddest. Everybody deserves a little happiness, Ava used to say. Even while fighting for her own life, she worried about others. Over time, Ava became beloved throughout the children's ward. Nurses adored her. Doctors admired her courage. Parents cried listening to her comfort frightened children younger than herself. But cancer does not care about kindness. One cold December evening, Ava's condition worsened suddenly. Henry sat beside her hospital bed holding her tiny hand while snow fell softly outside the windows. Ava looked at him weakly. "Grandpa." "Yes, sweetheart." "If I don't get better." Henry immediately shook his head. "You will." But Ava smiled gently. "If I don't." She whispered softly, "Promise me something." Henry tried not to cry. "Anything." "Keep bringing ice cream to the kids here." Henry's heart shattered completely. Ava squeezed his hand weakly. "Some of them don't have anybody." Those were among the last clear words she ever spoke. 3 days later, Ava passed away peacefully. After her funeral, grief destroyed Henry completely. His house became painfully quiet. Every room reminded him of Ava. For months, Henry barely left home. Then one afternoon, while cleaning his garage, he discovered an old unused ice cream truck he once planned to restore years earlier. And suddenly, he remembered his promise. The next morning, Henry spent his savings repairing the truck. New paint, working freezer, music speakers. At exactly 4:15 p.m., he drove to St. Mercy Children's Hospital for the first time. At first, hospital staff looked confused. Then children noticed the truck through the windows. Smiles appeared instantly. Laughter returned to hallways. And for the first time since Ava's death, Henry felt purpose again. Years passed. Yet Henry never missed a single day. The hospital eventually became part of his life. Children waited excitedly for him daily. Parents thanked him emotionally. Doctors often stepped outside simply to watch sick children smile again. Nobody realized the old man himself carried enormous pain behind his gentle smile. One afternoon, a new nurse named Olivia approached Henry while he handed ice cream to children outside. "You know," she said softly, "you've become famous around here." Henry laughed quietly. "I doubt that." Olivia smiled. "There are children who ask about you before asking about their medicine." That sentence deeply touched him. Over time, Olivia became close friends with Henry. And slowly, she learned Ava's story. One evening, While sitting beside the truck after hospital hours, Olivia asked gently, "Does it ever stop hurting?" Henry looked toward the hospital windows silently. "No," he admitted. "Then why keep doing this every day?" Henry smiled sadly. "Because grief feels lighter when it becomes kindness." Meanwhile, a 10-year-old patient named Lucas became especially attached to Henry. Lucas suffered from a serious heart condition requiring multiple surgeries. Fear consumed him constantly. But every afternoon, Henry made him laugh with terrible jokes and extra chocolate syrup. One rainy day, Lucas asked quietly, "Were you scared when your granddaughter was sick?" Henry stayed silent briefly. "Yes." Lucas looked down sadly. "I'm scared too." Henry knelt beside him gently. "Being scared doesn't make you weak." Then he smiled warmly. "It makes you human." Lucas never forgot those words. As years passed, the old ice cream truck became a symbol of hope throughout the city. Local news stations featured Henry repeatedly. Social media videos of children cheering when the truck arrived spread everywhere. People donated money, constantly hoping to support him. But Henry refused most offers. "This isn't business," he always said. "It's love." One winter afternoon, a powerful snowstorm hit the city. Roads closed. Schools shut down. Most traffic disappeared completely. Inside St. Mercy Hospital, children waited sadly near the windows. For the first time in years, they believed Henry might not come. At exactly 4:15 p.m., faint music suddenly echoed outside through the snowstorm. Children screamed excitedly. And there, moving slowly through heavy snow, came the old ice cream truck. Doctors and nurses stared in disbelief. When Henry stepped out carrying boxes of ice cream, even hospital staff began crying emotionally. Olivia rushed toward him immediately. "You could have stayed home." Henry smiled warmly. A promise is still a promise. That moment became legendary throughout the hospital. Even years later, nurses still told new employees about the old man who drove through a blizzard just to keep children smiling. One evening after closing time, Olivia noticed Henry coughing badly beside the truck. "You need to see a doctor," she insisted. Henry dismissed it casually. But weeks later, doctors discovered severe heart problems. Henry needed surgery urgently. For the first time in 23 years, he faced the possibility of missing visits to the hospital. The news devastated the children, especially Lucas. "You can't stop coming," Lucas whispered tearfully. Henry smiled gently. "I'll try not to." On the morning of Henry's surgery, something incredible happened. Dozens of former patients arrived outside the hospital. Teenagers, adults, parents carrying children. All people whose lives Henry had touched over the years. Some brought flowers. Others carried handwritten letters. One young woman stepped forward emotionally. "When I was 7, you gave me ice cream after every chemotherapy session." Another man added, "You visited me every day when I thought nobody cared." More stories followed. Hundreds of lives. Hundreds of memories. Henry sat speechless while tears filled his eyes. He never realized how deeply his small acts of kindness affected people. Before surgery, Olivia handed him a large scrapbook filled with photographs and messages from former patients. One note simply read, "You helped us survive childhood." Henry cried silently while reading it. The surgery lasted several hours. Doctors warned recovery would take months. But only 6 weeks later, at exactly 4:15 p.m., the familiar music returned outside St. Mercy Hospital once again. Children exploded with excitement. Henry stepped slowly from the truck, weaker than before, but smiling brightly. Lucas ran forward and hugged him carefully. "You came back." Henry laughed softly. "Of course I did." Years later, after Lucas successfully recovered and became healthy again, he asked Henry something important. "Why did you really keep coming all these years?" Henry looked toward the hospital thoughtfully. Then he opened the glove compartment slowly and removed Ava's photograph. Lucas stared quietly at the smiling little girl. "She taught me something before she died," Henry whispered softly. "What?" Henry smiled gently. "That even small moments of happiness can save people." Lucas looked toward the hospital windows filled with sick children waiting hopefully for ice cream. And suddenly, He understood. Eventually, after Henry passed away peacefully at age 86, the city held a memorial procession unlike anything St. Mercy Hospital had ever seen. Hundreds gathered outside. Former patients returned from across the country. Doctors, nurses, families. And at exactly 4:15 p.m., the old ice cream truck drove one final time around the hospital. Children waved from every window. Many cried openly. Later that year, the hospital permanently placed the restored truck near the entrance as a memorial. Beside it stood a plaque with Henry's favorite words: "Grief feels lighter when it becomes kindness." Visitors still stop there every day. Some leave flowers. Some leave ice cream cones. Some simply stand quietly remembering the old man who spent 23 years keeping a promise to a little girl. Because sometimes, the people carrying the deepest pain are also the ones creating the most beautiful joy for others.